To the Winter Park Civic Center in Winter Park, Florida. Tonight we will hear Linda Thompson, producer of Waco, The Big Lie. We hope you enjoy tonight's presentation.
Really, that's Ruth Ann and myself, Charlie Spross. We're two little Americans trying to have something for not only ourselves, but we have an 18-year-old daughter. I'd love to be a grandfather someday. She says she's going to get married when she's 25, I guess. We hope that'll happen. I don't see our speaker here yet, but I know she's on her way because I saw her at the airport. I brought her in. And I'm sure she can find her way over here. We have a number of people here that I think need to be recognized. Mike Wiley's in the back there. He's starting to sit down. Some of you we have a number of authors here. There's one over here on the right, here in the chair. His name is Mark Clark. He's written a very good book. And we have Jeff Baker, who's going to come up here in a minute and say a prayer. But he helped Channel 55 tremendously about 2 or 3 months ago. My friend Charles Brady, who's indispensable, he got me on to Jeff Baker. So give him a hand too, Jeff Baker. And then we have Dr. Wardner over here, James Wardner. I like the title of his book. It's called The Planned Destruction of America. It's a terrible thing to think about, but it's accurate, unfortunately. What we're trying to do tonight, and I know sometimes these meetings really drag on and on, but we just can't get together often enough, but we're going to try to get some accurate information out to you. We're going to try and clear up a lot of things on this Waco thing. The trial's going on in San Antonio right now. In my opinion, it's a kangaroo court going on. I don't know whether Linda is going to expose some of the tactics of the non-Americans that we have in this country. We're also going to thank her for risking her life to basically continue to have a constitution in this country. We've got a petition. I don't know whether you've all signed it or not. It's on the front table. Sign it. Get your friends to sign it. We're trying to get, how many, Mike? How many petitions we're going to try to have by the 12th of February? Petitions? Yeah. Now maybe Dave, you know.
We're shooting for half a million. It's going to take at least half a million to come back.
500,000 petitions. I don't know how many we have right now. 10,000 petitions. We're saying to our servants, legislators, we don't care. I care. On the 12th of February, as I understand it, Mike, we're going to have a rally in Tallahassee. Yes. On the Capitol steps at 2 p.m., is that correct? Is that right, Mike?
Yes, 4 o'clock, Tallahassee. We're going to meet at the Governor Square Mall. That's from there, it's about a mile walk away from the Capitol. Meeting between the Capitol.
What number do we call for getting good instructions on what to how to do it?
They just should listen to the show over the next couple of weeks. I'll be
The 104.1 FM. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna show a tape of Linda, and then we're going to have a love offering for Linda, and she's going to speak for 40 minutes. I hope. I certainly don't want to speak. I may have to get up Jeff Baker or somebody up here to speak.
She's here.
She here now? Okay. Well, praise the Lord. Then we're going to have a 20-minute break. I want to show you some of the things we have. We got a ton of these Waco tapes. You buy 11 of them, they're $3 a piece. We have one that's really unbelievable, The Real Janet Reno. It's by another Thompson. His name is Jack Thompson. He ran against her down in Dade County a couple years ago. If you haven't gotten a free one of these, I think there's some left around here. Don't pay for it, just pick it up and take it home. This thing is about the over-regulation of our country. Pick that up. If they want money, tell them forget it. It's free. Pick it up. We had 100 of these. I don't know, they're probably already gone. FEMA versus your constitutional rights. If you read that, and then you read this thing, Living with the Clintons. They mish. They tell you an awful lot of what's going on. And then we have one tape over there. I think it's, what is that other one, Dave? What's that other one that mentions in with these? America at Peril, I think is what it's called. There's only 10 of those out there. But right now I'd like Jeff Baker to come up here and open in prayer, and then we're going to have a pledge of allegiance, and then we're going to show this tape over here, and then we're going to have one of the strongest Americans I know come on up here. Okay, Jeff.
Well, as I told the folks in Wisconsin where I recently visited, you look like a good group of folks. I can't think of anybody I'd rather be in prison with than you. You know, it's interesting, our founding fathers had both a constitutional and biblical worldview. They saw both the Constitution and their life in America as a Bible-based society. They even saw our form of government from the Scriptures, Isaiah chapter 33, where the Lord says that he was king, lawgiver, and judge. They said no man should have that much power in one person, because if they do, they'll think themselves God. Well, I think that's what we've done with the separation of powers. We tried to separate them, but now they've all been blurred, and we, as Americans, need to begin doing a couple of things. One, understanding the problem, but two, understanding that it's going to take a spiritual movement that results in political action. To that end, let us commit this evening. Heavenly Father, we ask that you would tonight be with each one of us, that our ears might be opened, that we might hear truth. Father, we thank you so much for people of courage and vision like Linda Thompson, who are willing to stand up and be counted, who are willing to tell the truth against all odds. We ask now, Lord, that each of us will also have the courage to stand up, to be separate, to be individual, to be different, knowing that we have been called to be different, not to just go along to get along. We ask, Lord, that tonight, in all that we do, you might be raised up, because righteousness still exalts a nation, but sin is still a reproach to any people. Cause us, Lord, to be a people of righteousness and a people of faith, that we might again attain to those things which you have called us to be, that this nation might be lifted up and restored, that it again might be an example to all the world of your blessing and your prosperity. Father, again, we thank you for all those people who are here tonight, and for people like Charlie Spross who organize, for people like Linda who come here and share, who are bold, who stand up. And now, Lord, we thank you for all the people whose lives this evening is going to touch as they go forward in your power and in your name. And it is in your name, in Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen and amen.
Would you stand with me as we give the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dave, if you'd run that, somebody knock off the lights. We're going to watch this tape up here. I know some of you in the... This is the first time I've ever seen this, and it's moving me a lot like it is you. There's more to watch. So put the lights back down again so you can see what's the important part of this film. You know, the Lord's not really pleased with. And Jeff said a prayer, and I'm just going to say another one right now. Would you bow your heads, please? Father, we have some individuals here. We pray for them. We pray that they would come to know you in a personal way. We pray that what this country was all about is founded on biblical principles that helped us, our forefathers, to revere you, and that's why our country was great. When we turn back to that, we'll be great again. We just pray that we'll have peace and harmony in this meeting, that everything will be done according to your will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I'd like to go ahead and it's a free will offering. This young lady that we have here is at risk every moment of her life. And I'd like you to take whatever you have and give it to her. It's just going to, every penny of it's going to go to her, and she's going to use it for whatever she desires. And if she feels that it's just going to continue her ministry, it's really a ministry, I believe, more than a, you know, I don't think she can practice law. She'll get into that later on. But basically, Dave, if you can get those things going, and if we can get about 4 to 8 volunteers, we'll start passing these things up and down. While we're doing that, I think Mark Clark has books over there. Dr. Warner has books over here. We have Jeff Baker has some out in the hall. We just have all kinds of authors here who are basically trying to give us, bottom line, what, you know, is happening here in this country. You folks are here, by being here, you're basically saying, I know there's something wrong, I can't put my finger on it, but we're trying to give you some information that will help you to make up your mind, if you haven't made it up already, as what's really happening. But we're here tonight basically to give as much good information as we can to every person here. And when you go home, you got it right. You can say, hey, you guys are all crazy. Or you can say, hey, I want to get more involved. And I think there's enough addresses, phone numbers. I think we can basically make a difference. Our country had 56 people who basically, out of a population of 3 million, made a vast difference against the monarchy of England. And we had, what, 217 years of fantastic freedom? And I believe we can have another 217 years. We have some more Mike Wiley's and Lenny Ladner's and these authors and other people. This country can go a long, long ways. I don't know how we're doing on that, Dave. Did we get it passed around? This is kind of an impromptu thing. Linda didn't know we were going to do this. I just feel that when you got a patriot like that out there, I don't care what she gets, you can't pay her enough to do what she has already done.
Thank you all very much. The tape you just saw is Forgive Us, We Didn't Know. And we named it based on Christ's words as he was dying. When he said, Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And I think when we were all watching this going on, and so much of the country said things like, why didn't they do it sooner? Why didn't they get these people sooner? We didn't know what we were doing. And the truth hasn't come out yet. One of the things that was in the tribute tape that you just saw, that you need to go back and look at, put your recorders on pause, is after the music starts, there's one picture where you can see the ATF at the front door. That picture hasn't been widely shown around the country, and you've got to pay real close attention. But that is the front door. That is when the ATF first got there. When they claimed that the Branch Davidians were waiting for them, that the Branch Davidians shot out the front door and bowed the front door with their shooting. If you look at that picture, and we're going to have it in the update tape, Waco 2, which is not finished yet because I've been doing this all week. It'll be in that, though, so that you can look at it more carefully, but you can see it in the children's video. The windows are not broken out. The door is not bowed. The only shooting is coming from ATF, and there's a little kid out front. Just like Randy Weaver's situation, they killed kids the first day, and they went into cover-up mode. And they blamed it on the people they attacked. Now, we're hearing about this kind of thing all over our country, time and time again. I just had a fax sent to me before I came that I didn't get to read until I was in my room a few minutes ago. It's about a guy named Peroni in Montana. They want his land because it has uranium on it. They surrounded him with ATF and forest rangers and DEA and 2 other services, U.S. Marshals, while he was going out to get his mail. Handcuffed him, threw him in the back of a pickup truck, took him to an undisclosed location, kept him there for hours. Then they took him to the county sheriff, who was not involved with it. The county sheriff even said, who are these guys? The Peroni didn't know because they'd never identified themselves. Kept him in custody while they went to his house, held machine guns on his pregnant wife and his children, searched his house for 2 days. If the wife went to lay down, the ATF was there. They didn't find it what they were looking for, which they claimed was marijuana. There was none there. But they took all of his guns, and they didn't have a search warrant for guns at all. They took all of his guns, they took his vehicles, and they even took his horse. Dan Burton, a senator who was helping me try to get an investigation. In fact, every senator who has tried to help us has had something happen to them. Just Friday night, Dan Burton's son was arrested for supposedly having pot. Another senator you might have heard about 2 or 3 weeks ago's son was arrested with pot. These aren't coincidences. One of the senators who was very outspoken against Janet Reno to begin with, his aide called me, and I said, why is he being so quiet? Why isn't he helping with this? I said, was he threatened? And the aide said, he's not talking, is he? But the one who had been most active was Dan Burton. He had asked me for a list of questions to send to the heads of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to the FBI, to the ATF, to the Department of Treasury. He sent those questions off. He got some answers. We were able to use them to do more research and find out that basically they're still lying through their teeth. And his son was arrested. Now this is what they have done to so many people around the country. They have co-opted people that were working very hard by indicting them. You'll find that radio station announcers have been indicted for various things, unrelated to Waco, just indicted. What better way to get somebody to cooperate than have a few federal charges hanging over their head? Remember, that's the same tactic that they tried on Randy Weaver in Idaho. They set him up on a bogus charge. But Weaver's situation was even more complex than that, and I want people to be aware of that because it exemplifies some of the other problems that we have right now. Weaver wasn't just set up so he would be a snitch. They knew he would not be a snitch. He is one of the people who loves freedom in his soul. Aryan Nations, the group that the government was trying to infiltrate, their religious beliefs are part and parcel of their heart and soul. Liberty and freedom are part and parcel of their heart and soul. They are a white separatist group, and that's probably part and parcel of their heart and soul too. But in this country, they have a right to those beliefs. But because they are a fairly small group, they know one another, have known one another for years, they're not going to be infiltrated easily. And the government wanted to infiltrate them. They couldn't do it with Weaver any more than they could have done it with any one of us here in the audience. Weaver didn't belong to that group. But how could they best do it? Set Weaver up in a hostage situation and save him with a hero. The hero would be instantly welcomed by the community, wouldn't he? And that's what happened. The people that are running this government right now have the power of the master of deceit. The thing I have seen and been sucked into myself has been deceit. Our media is being used as a tool of that deceit. We're lied to daily. If you don't believe it, all you've got to do is look at the information that we do have available on what really happened at Waco and look at what they're doing right now while 11 Branch Davidians are going to trial. The trial is rigged. Judge Walter Smith from Waco, Texas, picked all of the attorneys. Then he cut their salary in half, because these are defenders, public defenders. Next, he moved the trial to San Antonio, which is where the government's special prosecutor is from. Makes it very easy for the government, but it makes it a logistical nightmare for the defense attorneys, who are already working on half pay on a case that should take, if an attorney were working on it full time, you could easily spend a year doing nothing but investigating it. And I can say that with sincerity because I have done nothing but investigate this thing since March. At least 10 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's not a day goes by we don't get new information. And we don't have subpoena power. If you had subpoena power, you'd have even more information to go through. So these attorneys are being expected to work on half pay on a case that they should have had a year to work on at least. They're expected to travel back and forth to San Antonio to conduct the case. Then the judge has announced that he picked the jury. He's already done it. He picked the jury. Obviously, he did not give each of the defendants the number of strikes that they're entitled to, because there's 11 defendants. Each of them should have been entitled to 10 to 12 strikes, depending on their charges. That would have been 120 strikes of jurors. They picked the jury in a day. I've had a drug case where it took us a week and a half for one defendant to pick a jury. And it's normal. I mean, it should take that long. You should be entitled to a thorough and sifting examination of the jurors that are on that pool. But not just that. He's keeping them anonymous. You can't even see their faces. You can't know their names. Every one of those jurors, for all we know, Could be that judge's uncles, cousins, brothers, ATF agents, who knows? But they're anonymous. There's a gag order on the press, on the attorneys, and the judge picked the press that's going to be allowed in to cover the trial. I don't know how you can get a trial more rigged than that. This is the same judge that kept witnesses in jail all during Waco. This is the same judge that wrote a boilerplate order for 7 attorneys, each of them writing, attempting to get relief for the Branch Davidians when they were surrounded. He wrote the same order. And in that order, he called the Branch Davidians criminals. This judge called them criminals in his own order. And he's still on the case. There's a lot of questions here, but there's also a lot of rigging, and it should be very obvious to everybody. We're not getting the truth here. But as I go around the country, I'm speaking, this is actually the smallest group, I'm not insulting you or anything, but just to give you an idea that you're not alone, this is the smallest group I've spoken to in about 6 months. We're filling big rooms, 5,000 people. And everybody is of like mind. They've had it. They're not taking the lies anymore. They're not listening to the lies anymore, and they want answers and they want to know what to do. I started out when we made Waco the big lie. At the end it says, write your congressman and write us. Well, a lot of people wrote their congressman and then they wrote us and sent us copies, and all the congressmen's letters say pretty much the same thing. Yes, Waco was a terrible tragedy. Thank you for your concern. Take a hike. We're not getting any reaction from Congress other than just a handful of congressmen. And all of those congressmen have been co-opted. One way or another, coerced, threatened. What does that tell you about the state of our country? We are going to have to take this government back. We, the people, are going to have to pay attention to what is going on. When people write about the shadow government that's running this country, that's very serious. It's true. There genuinely is a conspiracy. 2 years ago, I would have laughed in your face if you told me that. All right, so I'm slow. But in investigating Waco, I've come across what Danny Castellaro, the reporter who was investigating October Surprise and Inslaw, called an octopus. I came to call it an octopus without knowing that Danny Castellaro had called it that. Because every time I turned up a rock, I found another snake. Bill Clinton is directly connected to gun and drug running, as was George Bush. George Bush pardoned 7 people before he stepped down. Now, it's very difficult to pardon someone who's never been convicted of a crime, but that's exactly what he did do. Those 7 people, as you know, were under the process of being indicted for money laundering. We didn't change parties. We didn't even really change presidents. We just changed facilitators. Bill Clinton is a facilitator, and he's a better facilitator than George Bush was. He's moving faster, he's doing more, but that's good because the signs are there now for more people to see what is going on. I haven't seen the little stickers on the backs of road signs here in Florida. I don't know that they're here, but please look for them. As you're driving down the highway, and it won't be an interstate usually, it'll be a state road, look on the left-hand side of the road, on the backs of road signs. Any of you that travel, look in other states. You'll find them. I can tell you states you can definitely find them would be Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Utah, and Texas. Those are states where I have personally found them. These little stickers, they're reflective color-coded stickers. Now, don't be confused by the stickers that states put on their signs when they update them. Those kind of stickers will have, a date and a county agency or something on them. That's not what I'm talking about. These stickers are bright, reflective stickers. They have no markings on them at all. And they come in blue, red, orange, white, brown, green. Triangles, rectangles, squares, circles, and with little cutout holes in some of them. These are troop movement markers. We're finding these in states where the states have been gridded off into global positioning satellite. It has another name that I can never pronounce. But in any event, the states have gone to this. Their mile markers have been redone. Bridge markers have been redone. And before you come to a bridge, you'll find an elevation marker. A spotter could stand at that bridge and say, elevation so-and-so. And the bridge could be quickly blown. This sounds like science fiction, it sounds like lunacy, but we've been working on this for months. The blue ones in Utah blue squares lead to missile sites. In Indiana, the blue ones lead to what look like concentration camps or internment camps or places to hold large groups of people. The brown ones are near military bases. We haven't uncoded any of the others. We need help doing that. Please do it. We'd like to know what they mean, and after we know what they mean, take them off the signs.
Amen.
We've had a lot of policemen coming forward that have seen the Waco tape. I'll do questions in just a minute, okay? Unless it's an emergency.
I just wanted to repeat the one which those colored stickers.
Oh, okay, the colors? Okay.
Right here.
Pardon? Okay, they come in, well, we've got red ones, blue ones, orange ones, green ones, brown. They're almost every color. I don't know any color they aren't.
Okay, so what color was the concentration camps?
The blue rectangles.
And the missile?
The brown rectangles were for headquarters, like regional headquarters and military bases. And the guy from Utah called and said in Utah the blue rectangles went to missile bases. So we don't have any missile bases in Indiana that I know of. So I'll do questions and answers in a minute unless somebody just needs to leave and wants to ask one real quick. Other things that you need to leave?
No, I just, on any of on the stickers that you said, did any of them refer to communication?
We don't know. I don't know. There's just been a few of us working on this, and it's real obvious that they are some sort of coding, and that they do go with the mile markers. That, you know, if you had, for instance, this is hypothesis, purely hypothesis. But if you had somebody that couldn't speak English, how much would they have to learn to be able to say, I'm at 31 blue? And I noticed in the Peroni situation, as with others, the method of transportation of choice is the black helicopters. Now we're seeing these stupid black helicopters, and I'm getting bad-mouthed all over the place by people about that black helicopters. I don't know if you've seen them down here. We don't have any shortage of them where I am. I'm in a flight path of them. I can see them every day. Not to mention that I seem to have attracted the attention of a few of them personally. And we've had them hover over our house. We've had them buzz us in our cars. And I'm never alone when this happens, so I can guarantee you I have witnesses that can tell you, no, she's not hallucinating these things. I've heard from people all over the country that are what you could call patriots or very outspoken people that are going around trying to educate people as to what's going on, and every one of them has been visited by these black helicopters. There's a church up from me that's pretty hardcore, and they have helicopters all the time. It got to be a joke. The secretary of the church would call me, because when one would leave her place, she'd say, they're headed your way. and they would be. You know, they don't ever really do anything, but they fly very low, they fly overhead. And when they were over the house, I started going on, I'm on radio a lot, 2 to 3 times a day usually, and I started going on radio programs because I know they monitor the programs I'm on. But we've had government agents fax messages to radio announcers in the middle of my talking. But I started going on radio saying that the next one of those helicopters that flies under 50 feet over my house, they are unidentified black helicopters. They don't register with FCC. They're endangering my children, they're endangering my family and my property. I'm going to shoot them down.
Wow.
Weapon just for this purpose, and I was serious, and I am serious, and they quit doing it after I said that. So now that's Okay, these guys are not operating legally. If they were operating legally, one time they landed in a field with one of these helicopters, not landed, but they hovered next to me. And I really didn't think they were chasing me because I had a rent-a-car that I had just gotten the day before. And I did not realize then, at that time, how computerization helps the various agencies that are not working for our good. But they did know what car I had. And they were after me, and I didn't realize that they were harassing me. I saw them in the skies. I was driving to work, and I thought they were headed to my house, and I said, hot nuts, here's my chance. So I turned around, and I was going back home, and was going to be waiting for them. This time, they would not be lying when they said they were waiting for us. And they caught up with me, and were not going to my house. They came down in the field next to me. And I looked out and I thought, well, they're not chasing me and they're not going to my house. This is probably DEA looking for pot in a field, no big deal. So I was going to go on to work. Well, they crossed overhead, came down next to me on the left again. This time there was a guy in the back. This was a UH-60 helicopter and the door was open in the back. The guy had a rifle and he aimed his rifle at me. Well, I pulled my gun out because I figured if he was going to shoot me, I was going to shoot him. And looked at him, just stopped the car. And I was looking at him, he was looking at me. As soon as I pulled my gun, they took off. Now, if this was a legitimate law enforcement agency, they would have shot me or they would have arrested me. Because as soon as a law enforcement agent sees you pointing a gun at him and knows you're armed, you don't even have to point it, just knows you're armed. He's got a built-in excuse. They pulled a gun, I shot him. It's easy. They didn't. They didn't shoot me, they didn't arrest me, they never identified themselves, and they took off like little weenies. And they are. I find that they backed down. And that's the one thing that we have on our side, is we've got purpose. We've got courage that comes from purpose. These people that are here tonight, every one of us care about this country, care about our Constitution, and care about what's happening. I've had entire rooms full of policemen that have seen the tape at roll call come and say, what can we do? Now, FinCEN, I want you to understand what FinCEN is. Anybody that doesn't know, it's the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. It's a 92-computer database that's been set up in Vienna, Virginia, and they're urging that every agency of any government subscribe to it. And if you call up there and ask them, what can you get for this service, it's basically all information that's ever been computerized about you, period. Your 10 nearest neighbors, your social security number, your spouse's social security number, all your credit information, all your IRS information, customs information, your dog tags. Your dog, Bow Wow dog. Your military service records. Anything that's ever been computerized is accessible through this huge database. Now, Mark from Michigan, has anybody in here seen America in Peril? Not too many. All right, I urge you to get that tape and see it. I saw that tape about 2 years ago. It's a long, boring, very bad copy tape. It was boring only in the sense that the guy, all you're seeing is a guy standing up there talking. But what he's got to say is astounding. And when I heard it, I said, this guy's got to be a nut. But I set out researching what he said, and I've been able to prove 99% of it absolutely correct, and he said it 2 years ago. He was talking then about the black helicopters. He was talking then about UN occupation. He was saying places, locations, training sites, times and dates, facts, hard facts, information. Since then, I've met him. We've spoken twice together at places. And he has a wealth of information to share. And it turns out now we complement one another in the work that we're doing. And we do share research. And this kind of thing is happening across the country. There are people that were already working like we are, gathering information, and they had no outlet for it. We're creating outlets. We have a computer network already established. It's going much larger. It's a national network, and it has been since '91. We're making it much larger this week for news distribution. And we have people in about 30 of the 50 states that are what we call hubs that can get the information out to even more groups beyond them. There's potentially 21,000, there are 21,000 existing nodes, but not all of them are tied to us. But that right there has been the fastest method of distribution of news that I have ever seen. When I announced the militia assembly on a Sunday in that network, by Thursday we had received 5,000 phone calls of people that wanted to go. But they only wanted to go if they could shoot. So we ended up with, at that point, I was not convinced that it was necessary to take up arms. What we needed was a demonstration of people that were willing to do that, so we had a peaceful assembly, but it wasn't very many people. But that gives you an idea of the power of that type of network, and we're going to join it to what's called the internet, which is at all the colleges, all the universities, and a lot of different agencies around the country, and that's being done this week. So our news and distribution power is virtually unstoppable, and it's quick. And add to that, we have people with faxes, we have people with phones, we have people with ham radios, CB radios, and AM stations that are getting the word out. The waitress at our table tonight, who'd never seen me, didn't know me from Adam's house cat, was saying, I can't understand all these unconstitutional things they're doing. You know, this is really getting disgusting. We're hearing that everywhere we go. People get it now. They understand what's going on. What is going on is we've already had a coup in this country. We have had a coup in this country. Our government is being run not by the people that we think we elected, but by some of the wealthiest people in this country, in fact, in the world, who are able to buy the elections. How do they buy the elections? In case you don't know it, your vote for president does not count. The electoral vote is what counts, and it's easy to rig the electoral vote in this country. We went to the Philippines to supervise the vote, and I'm telling you, we need somebody here to supervise the vote. We've got the electoral process, governors and committees pick the electorates. Now the governor is going to pick whoever that committee that's in power in his state tells him to pick, and they're going to pick whoever the best donors tell him to pick, and that right there is how you rig elections. You buy it. You don't think Ross Perot could have bought that election if he wanted to? Of course he could. He was not there to be opposition. He was there to be controlled opposition, to make certain that George Bush did not win, because at that point it was about to be the biggest scandal. This whole thing was going to break open. What was going on and what is powering the money people in this country was going to be exposed if those 7 people were put on trial. What would have been exposed is one of the biggest gun and drug running rings in the world. And it's being run by people like George Bush and like Bill Clinton, with the financing that's now breaking this Whitewater and Madison Bank scandal, is money laundering. And what do they have to launder? Why would they have to launder the money if it's legal? Of course it isn't legal. You can find articles in the 92 Spy issue of Spy by John Connolly exposing the drug and gun running out of Mena, Arkansas. That was a CIA proprietary operation being run by Summit Airlines and Evergreen Airlines, well documented even in the congressional record at this point. Webster Hubbell, if you don't know his name, write it down. He is the Associate Attorney General. They did not run him for Attorney General because he would have had too much scrutiny, so they put Janet Reno in there. But Webster Hubbell is running the Department of Justice. Webster Hubbell was recently exposed in the paper for the $1.75 million loan he got his father-in-law. No big deal. Somebody should pay attention to the $2.75 million loan he got for his son-in-law, Skeeter Ward, who runs a company called Park On Meter in Arkansas. It's a metal fabricating company. They use that money to make ferry drop canisters and chemical bombs for the Contras. Sound familiar? We did not change presidents, we changed facilitators. Webster Hubbell was one of the partners in the law firm with Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Vince Foster. Vince Foster is the man that supposedly committed suicide. He did not commit suicide, he was murdered. The gun that was found in his hand had no serial number. It was a Colt revolver. Colts have had serial numbers since the 1800s except for a series issued to the CIA. His car was not found in the park where he was found. He left no suicide note. A suicide note materialized 3 days later in his briefcase that had already been searched item by item. The park rangers investigated his death, and they were instructed by Janet Reno and Bill Clinton to investigate his death as a suicide. Now, any policeman can tell you, you do not investigate anything as a anything. You investigate it for the cause of death. If this was Bill Clinton's good friend, and if you were president of the United States and one of your best friends that you've known since 8th grade just got found in a park with a gun in his hand that he didn't own, in a suit, with his car not around, and you could command every police force in this country to look into it, would you give it to the park rangers? Now, the documents that they're asking for from Bill Clinton, they originally said they don't exist, we don't know anything about them. Bill and Hillary said, we don't know about them, they don't exist. Now they're saying, well, yeah, they exist, but you can't have them. And once threatened with an independent prosecutor, they said, oh no, don't do that, we'll give them to you after we go through them. Now this is the story that has changed over and over and over again on these documents that Vince Foster had. But what Vince Foster was trying to do at the time that he was murdered was reconstruct Bill and Hillary Clinton's financial records. Vince Foster was their financial advisor in Arkansas during the time period that Webster Hubbell was getting these loans for his son-in-law, which was through a program that Bill Clinton developed. Webster Hubbell, remember, was one of the senior partners in the same law firm as Vince Foster, Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton, and Mac McLarty. Another name to remember, Mac McLarty is chief of staff at the White House. Mac McLarty has a bachelor's degree, but he has the most powerful position in the country. He has been with Clinton for a long time, and coincidentally, he was the last person to speak to Vince Foster by phone before he was found dead. He was also the last person to speak to a fellow named Tully, one of Clinton's campaign fundraisers before he was found dead, and to yet another fellow named Shepard before he was found dead. I've done a body count around Bill Clinton, and there have been 12 of his bodyguards and 14 other people that have all died, none of them from natural causes, since he took office. Every single one of these people had some connection to either his finances, directly to his finances in most cases, or to his military plans for the UN. We saw 4 state troopers come forward recently trying to tell us how the Secret Service was used to pimp for Bill Clinton and how they were offered jobs not to talk. It's my understanding that they came forward because they didn't want to die. I hope we see more of those people, but as always, now that they've come forward, they're being investigated. They're turning it around on them. They assigned one of these officers to narcotics to guarantee he could be shot in the street dead. One thing I'm just now starting to investigate is why so many of the heads of the National Guard and reserve units, we're talking generals, since November of '92, have died in crashes, plane crashes, helicopter crashes. Little girl that's in one of my son's classes, he's 15, she's 15. Her dad was the head of the Indiana National Guard. He was killed in a plane crash going to Alaska with some other heads of National Guard units. Why did Indiana National Guard need to go to Alaska? That's right, it's real easy to rig a plane crash. And that was the comment that this little girl made to one of my sons that actually was what started me looking at this, because I'd already found all the dead bodyguards, all these other people that were dead in things like running into a tree in a skiing accident. Now, Tony Danza just ran into a tree and all it did was break his nose. Found dead in their hotel room or found dead in their bathroom of no known cause. They always say it might be a heart attack, but heart attacks leave enzymes in your blood. If you have a heart attack, the hospital can diagnose that. The autopsy can show that. There is no such thing as an equivocal heart attack. Either you had a heart attack or you didn't have a heart attack. In any event, it's apparently very easy at this point to knock off people that might know too much or say too much or do too much. Paul Wiltshire was just found dead in Washington, D.C. in June. He was investigating the exact same things I am. And he was one of those equivocal heart attacks found dead in his bathroom. They didn't call it suicide, at least. Since we began our investigations, started being very public about it. I have been harassed. Everybody who has helped me has been harassed. And we shouldn't have to live like this in this country. People that call me on the phone say, well, I know your phone is tapped. They just assume it. Isn't that a damning statement about this country? Isn't that a damning statement about the condition of this country? I remember in 6th grade, we used to talk about how it was in the Soviet Union, that people would worry about the KGB following them in the streets, their phones being tapped, their property being seized. And yet, what's the biggest fundraiser for many of the federal police and state police and local police departments now? Seizures, asset seizures. Why are we seeing crime go up? Because it's very rewarding to prosecute pot smokers. They don't shoot back. They're easy to get, and you get all their stuff. It's not too rewarding to chase someone that might be armed and dangerous. And you can't get their stuff either. And who's going to profit from gun bans? The very same people that have profited from running guns to other countries each time a war was created. The very people that have been profiting from running cocaine into this country. The biggest cocaine dealer in this country are CIA, along with our military. That is documented in the congressional record. I got a stack of papers this thick that shows you Congress knows it. And at the time they knew it, they passed some of the most draconian laws in the history of the world, making it possible to seize people's property, making it possible that if you are busted for a drug crime right now, and you own a gun, and that drug crime, let's just give you a hypothetical that's not hypothetical, it's actually happened. If they want to set you up right now, any one of you in this room, the simplest thing to do is pay an informant to say that he was at your house, that he talked about bringing in shipment loads of pot, that you knew how to do it, that you were going to arrange it, and that you were going to do it every week for the next year. Red pickup truck was going to come to the corner of such and such a street. That's his testimony, that's his statement, that's his affidavit, that's their probable cause. He's a reliable informant known to them. That's all it takes. They arrest you. They get a search warrant for your house. They find a gun in a closet, on a shelf, in a box, unloaded, with the receipt in the box. And you are charged with using a gun in the commission of a drug crime because the crime was conspiracy and the gun was accessible. It only has to be accessible. Now you're charged with conspiracy to commit a drug crime under federal law, and you're charged with violating a federal gun law, which is a mandatory 5-year sentence. Now you're going to have federal officers at your trial get on the stand and talk about their extensive investigation of you, all the times they watched you, followed you, saw you talking to known drug traffickers. They're going to bring in your phone bill. They're just going to show it. They're not going to point to it and say there's anything in that phone record. They're just going to show it. They'll leave it in a stack on a table. They'll have other stuff like that they just make stacks out of on the table for the jury to see, to create the impression that they have this, fantastic case against you. And then the informant's going to get on the stand and tell about how many times he went to your house and saw you raise your gun up and say, yeah, I got a gun, I'm ready for this too. And then he's going to bring a friend in that was sitting out in the car waiting for him the whole time and can corroborate all the number of times he was at your house. And the jury's going to convict you, and you're going to get 20 to 40 years because the sentence isn't based on the crime, it's based on the amount of pot. Now remember, this was a conspiracy to commit pot possession. So you didn't ever actually have any. You didn't even have to actually talk about it. You didn't even have to have it in your house. It was a conspiracy. But the sentence is based on how much pot. And how much pot? We're talking an imaginative amount here. We're talking about a conspiracy. And the prosecutor gets to tell the judge how many times they think you were going to bring pot in. He planned to do it for 2 years, and they were going to bring in 50 pounds each time, so 50 times 52, that's 2,720 pounds a year for 2 years. That's over 5,000 pounds of pot. You're looking at a 40-year sentence. Now that's happened. That is happening right now, and I'm not making this up. This is how the federal drug laws are being applied. And the court system is rigged. In federal court right now, only a select few of attorneys are allowed to practice in front of the federal courts in each city. There's a deal made. It's understood who can practice. And the way it works is, the person gets arrested, they call you, you charge them $20,000 to $30,000 to represent them, then you don't do jack squat until the day before their trial. You might file a couple of boilerplate motions, make it look like you're doing something. Go visit him in jail a couple times. And then the night before his trial, you come in there and you tell him the government's got an overwhelming case against you. And if you don't plead, they're going to arrest your wife. When they arrest your wife, your kids are going to go to a foster home. And your wife's going to be in the same condition you're in. She's going to be sitting in a cell like this, but she won't be able to get out either because there's no bond anymore on federal drug cases. And he's going to know this is true because he's going to have already been sitting in jail for a year waiting to go to trial with no way to get out, no bond. He's lost his job. He's already lost his house. If he hasn't lost his wife, the wife and kids are on welfare. They've lost everything they own. And he's been in jail for a year and he hasn't been to trial yet. And he's going to believe that attorney when the attorney comes in and tells him that because he has already seen America's justice system in action for a year. So he pleads. And if he doesn't plead, the judge will tell him, and make no bones about it, you're going to be sorry you went to trial. You're going to be sorry. And you will be sorry because you are going to be found guilty because we have juries that are not told what their rights are. We have juries that are instructed by the judge. You must find the law as I instruct you. And this is absolutely not true. Since the trial of William Penn, the jury has an absolute right to refuse to convict for no reason other than they like the color of the guy's tie if they want to. But they're not told that. They are told you must find the way I instruct you. And if that's not good enough, the judge will keep witnesses out. I have had a case where 3 police officers were going to come testify, 3 very honest, honorable, upright men were coming to testify, and every single one of them received threats that if you show up, you won't have a backup. Now, this is the kind of thing that's happening to our honest and decent cops. And they are our last stronghold. They are our best trained fighting force right now. These are your neighbors. If you're going to educate anybody, you educate the local police department. You have classes over there. Show them what is going on. Show them what it means. Show them what these gun confiscation plans mean. Show them what these troop unit markers mean. Show them what is happening in this country as UN troops are being brought in to train at different bases around this country. And we're not talking numbers in 30 to 100 like they used to. We're talking entire brigades. We have taken pictures of them. We have news articles on them. They are here. They do exist. We've got pictures of the tanks that are being brought in here. Now, we're being quietly occupied. And at the same time, our Congress is passing laws to ban every weapon that would be useful to defend ourselves. They're creating the world's greatest black market in guns as they do this. They're also disarming us. They're taking away our right to protect ourselves so that when they show up at your house like they did at Peroni's, you won't be able to do anything about it either. Waco was a warning. They went into these people's home with guns blazing. They screwed up. They killed children. They intentionally killed 3 of their own guys. 3 of those guys that were killed that day had been Clinton's bodyguards. They're included in my body count of 12 bodyguards. The new head of ATF used to be in charge of bodyguards, by the way. Job well done. But it was a warning to us. They used tanks on these people. Ann Richards, the governor of Texas, didn't stop them, and she could have. The governor of each state has the absolute right to tell the feds to move out. The federal government is a foreign government to each state. Each state is its own government, is its own sovereign, and no foreign government, no federal government officer can come into a state and usurp the right of the local police unless the governor or the local county sheriff says so. So who do you need to educate? You need to educate your governors. You need to educate your local sheriffs. You need to educate your local police. Let them know what their power is. Your local police are your neighbors. They have to live in your community just the same as you do. It's not an us versus them situation. They are us. They are under some of the same problems that we're under right now with the way the system is rigged. But you've got to educate them. You've got to show them what is going on so they know what to expect. So when they go to these riot training classes, they realize who the targets are. Their targets are their neighbors, their friends, their sons, their daughters. When they go to these gun confiscation classes, they learn that the targets are their friends, their parents, their sons, their daughters, their wives. And they start thinking what this means to America, what this means to them. This is a growing consciousness that's awakening around this country. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you I speak to groups that are 5,000 people all over, and it's so nice to see people come in and say, wow, I'm not a nut, I'm not alone. Everybody else does think there's a problem. Yeah, there's a problem. And I appreciate all of you coming here tonight. I appreciate all the work that all of you all are doing. I know there's not a person in this room that hasn't done something to try and educate other people, or you wouldn't be here. You guys are the people that care. You guys are the Thomas Jeffersons for your grandchildren and their grandchildren. I hear people saying, the kids are our future. Wrong. We're the kids' future. Everything we do right now is going to affect our children and their children, and everything we don't do right now. Our parents let it slip by them, their parents let it slip by, and that's how we got this mess. And it's not to blame them because it was insidiously done. It was sneakily done. All you people that have spent so much time researching the Federal Emergency Management Act and how they slipped the Federal Reserve in on us and how they slipped this Federal Emergency Management Act and executive orders and all these things by us, realized that it was deceit upon deceit by the masters of deceit. So our parents aren't to blame, but we will be because now we know. Questions and answers, and it's hot as a dickens, so let's make it quick. Right here.
Linda, could we take just a real quick
Oh,
break?
let's take a break. Everybody want a break? Yes, please. We've got, the tape that you saw is called Forgive Us, We Didn't Know. Every penny that we make from this goes back into research and investigation of what I've been talking about. And they're out at the table, so is Waco the Big Lie.
Good for 10 minutes, Linda.
Am I going to show what? Waco? You want to see Waco the Big Lie?
Yeah.
It wasn't my flyer. I have nothing to do with what you were talking about. Okay, which one? Okay, well, the people that are sponsoring this control what's done. I come to speak. So I'd like to point out that during the break, we had government agents in the parking lot taking pictures from a silver car, it's a silver Chrysler with a lot of antennas on it. He's driving very slow. We went out and tried to get pictures of them and we didn't see them, but a guy came up and reported it to us. But look, if you've got a camera with you, get their picture. Let's find out who they are. I can identify the fellow that was here earlier griping about he came to see a video, yelling it out. He's an agent provocateur. Be aware of these people. We've got one sitting in the back of the room right now. He'll identify himself later, I'm sure, by yelling. But we have 4 here tonight that I recognize. And this is something you need to be aware of. When you form your groups, when you start making a difference, do it with people you know. Do it with people you've known for a long time, your friends and neighbors, because we've got feds falling all over themselves that don't have enough to do. And they're going to hire 300,000 more, and Clinton has asked that they all be combat trained. 300,000 combat trained Ninja Turtle SWAT team vets. And they're coming out of, thank you. Somebody just pointed out another one. No? Oh, okay. He's okay? Oh, that's good. We want you to. Oh, that's good. The final action reports on the ATF and Department of Justice all recommended that the federal police be trained by Delta Force. Delta Force is special forces. They have CIA in this Delta Force group and have for years. Delta Force is the hunter-killer team. Now, their recommendations were that these be the trainers of all the federal police departments. Keep that in mind, especially when you know what's going on around the country in terms of these agents breaking in homes, kicking in doors, terrorizing unarmed people. And if you give up your guns, you're all going to be unarmed people. And if you don't have a gun, you're already an unarmed person. Now we're watching the rest of the country. There's not a day goes by that something doesn't come out of Florida about your arms problem here. They have these little media hypes with some tourist shot. Why were the tourists shot? Give this a thought for a moment. Who do they know for sure is unarmed? Tourists. Foreign tourists especially, that have come from countries that don't allow guns. And they can't bring one in through the customs anyway. That's a lesson. I mean, that's an abject lesson, not in why we ought to ban guns, but why we ought to hand them out. Your best stock investment right now is PVC pipe. Stock in PVC pipe. Anybody that doesn't appreciate that joke, PVC pipe is being used to bury guns around this country. Put them in PVC with little ends on them, bury them, keep them safe. Just a few. That's definitely occurring, and you'll pick up some of the survival magazines and things on the newsstands. You'll see those sold more and more. You can make your own a lot cheaper, but if you don't know how, they're about $65 in the survival catalogs. Okay, somebody asked me to mention, and I really should have anyway without prompting, Bill Cooper in shortwave radio. If you don't have a shortwave radio, you can get a cheap one for about $35. Shortwave radio, there are a number of good broadcasts on nightly that carry news, updated news, and it's usually on station WWCR, which is 5810 on shortwave. Bill Cooper is on at 8 o'clock and then at midnight on shortwave on that channel. And he is the only person I know that doesn't hesitate to identify the government agents, that doesn't hesitate to identify what he has found to be true. 6 months ago, I thought Bill Cooper was nuts too. Bill Cooper told me some things that I was going to find that were true, and I scoffed at him literally on the phone. I said, Bill, I don't want to doubt you, but it sure sounds far-fetched. Bill Cooper is the only person I know that verifies his information, any information, no matter where he gets it from, before he puts it out in the air. He kept me from looking like an idiot when one of the government agents was trying to provoke people to come to one of the ATF-identified sites. In the ATF final report, if you get that report, you can get it from the government for $33. We are sold out, so please don't order it from us. But the government is selling it for $33. It identifies future targets. And this one operative was there before the ATF report came out, urging people to come up there with their guns and fight. And it was supposedly the Pagaisit Indian Reservation. And this agent was claiming that they were being surrounded by feds unfairly and that we should all come up there and prevent another Waco. Bill Cooper is the only one that bothered to check. I checked far enough to find out that, yeah, there was this so-called Pagaisit Indian Reservation. They had two guys there claiming to be Indians, and They were surrounded by cops, all right. But what it really was is two guys that their dad was a black guy, their mother had been Indian, decided to declare their property an Indian reservation. And they had not been successful in getting federal status for their Indian reservation, and so they sued the entire town over the rights to the property and tied up everybody's property deeds, and then they began selling cigarettes without paying the state tax. Now, the state had warned them numerous times to quit doing that, which is the state's authority to do. That's actually a proper tax that a state can levy. And they had sent state police out there to try to collect the tax. Bill Cooper's the only one that checked, and because he checked, he kept patriots all over the country from showing up to what was a government-provoked scam. And kept a lot of people from getting killed. What was behind this whole Pageesan Indian thing was a casino interest. They put this casinos on one government Indian reservation already, because Indian reservations are sovereign. They don't have, the federal government doesn't have jurisdiction over them. That's why these guys want federal status as an Indian reservation, and they're being backed by casino money, which, as you know, is the mafia. That was at the heart of this. And the provocateur that's in this audience that I mentioned earlier is the guy that did this, and he's here with us tonight, folks. He's sitting right, oh, he stood up. Look, he identified himself. Thank you, thank you. And he brought friends. No, now you see him provoking. Where's the policeman? We're not going to have it here tonight. There's too many people here that know who you are and what you are, and we will beat you to a bloody pulp. So you might want to... We don't need a government snitch. This man was also in Waco in advance. He was there. He published one paper called the so-called Outpost of Freedom. He wormed his way into the hearts of patriots there who were working, trying to do something. I was one of them. I got sucked in by this guy because I didn't know any better, and that's why I'm warning you guys. A lot of people did. The Libertarian Party got sucked in on him by him, and he led them into an ambush of ATF agents in Waco. He said he was going to take them down a secret little road that only he knew. They were going to march into the compound. And they had ATF agents and helicopters jump out with machine guns and surround them. And he invited our group to go, and we said, if it was anybody but you doing it, we'd do it in a heartbeat, but I know you're leading them into an ambush. And that's exactly what happened. He just got with Mark Warmke, Mark from Michigan, the fellow that I was telling you about earlier. He just had him come to a hotel room with this girl he operates with and pretends it's his wife. It's not his wife. Had him come meet him at a house, another patriot's house, tape recorded the conversation and tried to set him up, tried to get him to agree to help kidnap government agents like Janet Reno. Mark Warmke has it on tape. He can prove it.
What's his name?
His name, he goes by Gary Hunt. When we were in Waco, when I got sucked in by him, I had some guy that was in contact with Bo Grice call me and say, you need to contact this Gary Hunt. He's a patriot. He got the Branch Davidians' power of attorney, but when they moved to satellite and they signaled he could have it. Well, I found out that the radio station announcer that was supposedly working with Hunt, supposedly getting this signal, supposedly broadcasting to the Branch Davidians, he's one too. They probably weren't talking to the people at all. We've since found out that all of the radio broadcasts into Mount Carmel were jammed. I thought it was a little funny when I interviewed one of the Branch Davidians, and he said, we never moved that tower. I don't know what he's talking about. But Hunt went around claiming that he had the Branch Davidians' power of attorney because they had wiggled a satellite when they'd been asked the question over the radio, can Gary Hunt have your power of attorney? And I was going down to file a writ of mandamus for the Branch Davidians and was contacted by a guy who was in our net. We were infiltrated. I didn't know it. Since he was one of our reporters, I figured anybody he recommended was okay. I'd never been to Texas. So I called Hunt. Said he had the power of attorney. I said, that's great. We're going to file as next friend. That's a legal status that gives us the right to file on behalf of somebody else who can't. You don't have to be an attorney to do that, by the way. Anyone can file as next friend. We added Hunt on the petition as having power of attorney with the argument that he had the power of attorney on the basis that he claimed with the affidavit that he attached. We filed that on Friday with this judge who had already denied 6 writs that other attorneys had written. We couldn't get a hearing. That weekend, we went to dinner. It was my law partner and I and Hunt. I wanted to cross the line where the media was being kept back. We have a news network. All of the media makes their press passes themselves. And it's absurd to think that anyone who is a member of the press has to get government approval to be a member of the press. That's exactly what the First Amendment is about. It says the government can't infringe the right of the free press. But at Waco, they were trying to insist that you first register with them to be recognized as the press. And that's how they kept the free press out. So we made our own press passes and we went in the press area. And we had a plan that we were going to cross the line and get arrested and then file a lawsuit for violation of the right of free press. Hunt faxed everybody in the press area ahead of time as to what we were going to do. He faxed the headquarters of the FBI at Waco. So when we got down there, they had reinforcements at the police line. We weren't there but about 20 minutes and we left. I still hadn't figured out he was an agent yet. I'm a little slow. I thought it was just bad luck that there were so many cops showed up all at one time. As we were leaving, we got stopped on the way out by the same friendly officers who let us in, posed for pictures, and been very cooperative. They snatched all of our ID, made us sit there as an ATF agent with a machine gun, pointed his machine gun at our heads, pointed it at John, my partner, and me, never at Hunt, just at us. 20 minutes, and I got his picture, because we were sitting in the car, and I was able to hide the film. I took his picture. That picture ran in Soldier of Fortune last July. And we're going to put a copy of it in Waco, the big light, number 2, too, for people to see. But this agent came around the car and was pretty mad that I got his picture. And when we were made to get out of the car, that agent found a camera. It was Hunt's camera, and he took the film out of it. And Hunt's standing there saying, "You got the wrong camera. You got the wrong. That's not the film. You got the wrong camera." That's when I figured out who he was. And I wish I had been armed because he would not be here tonight. Nonetheless, we got questioned in a tent by some FBI agents. We had to wait out there for about 2 hours. FBI came, they asked me questions. I told them I was an attorney. I am an attorney. And I said, if I'm not free to leave, then I'm under arrest. And if I'm under arrest, you have to charge me. And I was not charged. By the way, if you want the case for that, if you ever have this come up, it is Edwards v. Arizona. You have a Fifth Amendment right to counsel as soon as you are not free to leave police control. Remember that. It can be important. Fifth Amendment right to counsel. Usually it's Sixth Amendment. Once you've been arrested, you have a Sixth Amendment right to counsel. But when you're not officially arrested, but you're not free to leave police control, you have a Fifth Amendment right to counsel.
What was the case law?
Edwards v. Arizona. It's almost as famous as Miranda v. Arizona, the one that required that your rights be read to you.
What year?
If you'd like the site, if you'll call my office or my computer network, we have the case on the computer network. Somebody asked for that number too, by the way. It's 317-881-2743. That's the computer line. And this week, it's going to be very slow. There's not going to be a lot on it because we are taking it down. We are making it into 5-line with the several gigabyte of hard drive space, free access for system operators, so that we can encourage system operators all over the country to hook into the network.
Could you give us that number again?
Okay, 317-881-2743. Now, any system operator that picks up this network, the contingent is that once we identify someone as a government disinformation agent, they drop that person immediately. We are going to exercise that kind of control. We do use PGP, which is an encryption program for all sensitive messages. We're encouraging anyone to learn how to use a computer and a modem first, then learn how to use PGP, then learn how to use packet radio so that you can send computer encrypted messages by radio that cannot be opened. And if the phone lines go down, you've still got a secure means of communication. Now, PGP is the one that has sent the government up the wall because it was written, like a lot of things, including all the software that makes these computers work together all around the country, by people that are known as hackers. When my husband and I started in computers back in the early 80s, you had to write your own software. And we were one of the founding members of what's called FidoNet. We founded Region 231. All of FidoNet now has 24,000 computers hooked together, and they're all being run by people that do it for free. And they've been doing it since the early 80s. They wrote their own software. They work together. It is what made this country great. It is an example of what made this country great. We didn't need government regulation. We didn't need government approval. We didn't need instructions on the box. People just did it. And all of the software that was written gets updated regularly, and the government can't deal with it. Clinton's just now trying to get the White House into the internet, which is another similar system. And they are using an encryption program called DES that every one of us can crack in 3 tries. And they're touting it as the secure government encryption method. Let's encourage them to use it. But PGP is secure because the author did not give them a back door. And even if he gives them a back door now because they're trying to indict him for selling his program out of the country and putting other pressure on him like that, even if he gives them a back door now, all we have to do is use earlier versions. And the author has no control over that. It would have no repercussions for him. And the back door wouldn't affect the earlier versions. The government's asking for a backdoor into every single computer that's built, every single phone that's built, so that they can automatically tap into everything. We are going to need a secure means of communication, and the only method I see is PGP and packet radio with computer, encrypted messages over radio networks. Because those are mobile enough, you can move. And if I'm talking Chinese to you, please, please learn. Get a computer. Get a shortwave radio. You're going to have communications, and you're going to need to know where your friends are, where your neighbors are, and what they're doing. And it's not going to be 10 years from now. Okay, let's go to question. I'm sorry, I keep running my mouth. This guy back there.
There's a magazine called Wire, and last February's issue had an article on PGP that explains what you're talking about.
Okay, the man said that last issue of Wire magazine last month had an article. Last February had an article on PGP that
Second issue.
Okay, February's 2nd issue. Is that right?
It was the second issue of the whole magazine. It started in January.
Oh, okay. So that was the 2nd publication of this magazine. It was published in January and February. It's called Wire Magazine. The February issue, Wire, W-I-R-E-D, magazine, February edition, had an article on PGP. Okay, questions?
2. Organized drug gangs, their involvement in the scenario that you...
Organized drug gangs and their involvement in the scenario.
What you're speaking on.
Okay.
So, the Inslaw.
Okay, Inslaw case. Oh, you want me to do this? I got 20 minutes to answer questions. Okay, better yet. You got a computer? Oh, let's do that. A lot of my research files are on there, and we've got background information on Wackenhut. I do want to share that with you. Wackenhut. Please watch out for Wackenhut. 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 They are supposed to be a private security guard company. They are not. Okay, they guard all of the military, they guard all the United States property at its locations around the world. Cities that have gone to private police forces, almost every one of them has gone to Wackenhut. They guard Department of Energy property, General Electric. Their main headquarters is in Coral Gables, Florida. But I started running subsidiaries on this company. They own robotics technology, satellite technology, cable vision technology, most of the private prisons built with FEMA funds in the country, private prison food service industries. They are almost as big as AT&T. Now, the shocking thing is that their whole board of directors is ex-FBI, CIA, and NSA. Their third largest stockholder is Rothschild Trust out of England. And the rest of their stockholders read like a who's who of the bankers and insurance companies in this country. You can pull that up on Standard & Poor's. If you have a computer, I'm going to urge this. Our technology is better than theirs. We have them out-teched in that sense. Research are us. Information are us. So please get a computer. But in any way, Wackenhut. Just got a uniform. Mark gave it to me in Michigan the other night. It's Wackenhut uniform. Got a little patch on it over here. It says Wackenhut Services, Inc. Down at the bottom it says KAPL. Some of you radio people may help me with what that means. -WSO. In the center it says Department of Energy, United States of America, as if it is clearly a government patch. In the center of that, it has the eagle turning this way, the old CIA shield. Inside it is DEA symbols. Now this is an official-looking government patch. You cannot use United States of America, Department of Energy on a patch if you aren't part of the government. Now, then I looked in the little tag in that shirt. I'm going to put a picture of this in a tape or something so people can see that the little tag in the shirt, there was two tags. One said Wackenhut Services, Inc. and the laundry that they had them done at. And the other one said, was green, sewn in, UN top tag, UN sizes, military issue shirt. Now, those guys fly black helicopters. We know for sure. We can prove it. We found them flying them in Nevada. We found them flying them in California. Here you go. The fellow brought me up some pictures. He's got them here. He found, where's this location in North Carolina?
This picture was taken on 28th of December by myself. This is a friend of mine in the photographs.
Okay, this picture is taken on the 28th of December.
28th of December.
This year. What he's showing you is a UN flag flying in a building.
This is a completely unmarked building in the way back end of an industrial park in Indian Trail, North Carolina. It has an American flag on the front and a UN flag
Indian
on the
Trail,
outside.
North Carolina, UN flag on an unmarked building in Indian Trail, North Carolina.
United Nations flag on the building. Nobody seems to know who they are or what they do, and there's absolutely no signs on the building to indicate. Very mysterious, but they're here among us.
I wish everybody could see the information that comes into my office, and I wish I had more help. We get stuff like this every day.
Wackenhut also guards the rest areas around Fort Tibbs.
Around where? Fort Tibbs? Well, their headquarters is Coral Gables, Florida. Okay, Wackenhut. And they guard what here?
Rest areas.
Rest areas. Okay, Wackenhut guards the, oh, that gives me a warm fuzzy feeling. Wackenhut guards the rest areas in Florida, according to this gentleman right here. Okay, temperature.
We're all Americans, I suppose. What makes guys like this tick? Money?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. The one thing you might want to check into, you know, what made the SS tick? You know, those guys too, but I want to tell you that one thing that warms my heart is who got shot first. Hitler killed all of his guys that knew all the secrets. Okay, over here.
Jeff Bush is running for governor. Can you tell us anything about Jeff Bush?
Jeff Bush. You mean Neil Bush or Jeff Bush? I really don't know enough to talk. That's a research project right now. If you could wait, we do have something coming out of it because there's a lot of connections to the money running, the money laundering to him. And I can't name names and dates intelligently enough to discuss it, but I will next time I come here. Or we'll have an article that'll be right on my computer network first. If you have access to a computer, almost all my research files, anything we're working on, I put on it.
Do you have copies of the still pictures of the UN troops that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, we do.
Do you have them with you?
No.
Could we?
What I'm doing on the pictures is, the problem I'm having, since there's so many people now that are waking up and are aware, is getting this information out to a lot of people at once. First of all, I go broke faxing it everywhere, because it's a lot of money to do that. We get about 300 phone calls a day. That's average day. We put in voicemail because of that. We get between 200 and 400 letters a day. All right, so I cannot possibly reach that many people. I can't even call these people back. You know, we have two people that do nothing but just listen to the messages and write them down, and we go through the ones that have information. Those people are the ones I call back. All right, and we get the information and we try to put it in one place and get it out to as many people as possible. I'm making tapes. That's what I've decided we're going to continue to do, is try to put as much information as possible into tapes. It's taken me since June to get the hang of this and get it set up into a way that we can do it quickly. But we have done that now, and we've got several tapes we're working on right this minute. One is of the black helicopters, and we're going to try to make these cheap instead of this 20 bucks a pop thing. And I'm sorry these things are that much, but it costs me $4 to $5 a piece to take an order because of the 800 number. Plus the cost of production of the tape, plus the postage, plus the people that are sitting there answering the 300 phone calls a day. So we're not making a killing like some people would like to believe. And nobody pays me when I come here and do these things. Nobody pays my office overhead for me when I'm away from the office either. But I am going to try to get the cost down as low as humanly possible and still keep the office functioning and get it out to as many people as possible, as fast as possible. And if you have information, we want to get this information out to people. We've got now over 100,000 person mailing list. And each of those people, when we make these things, except for the music video, which we did copyright and copy protect because it has Carl Klein's music on it, copy them. Charlie's Cross is selling them for less than we can buy them for. Buy them from them. Make copies. Get them out. Okay. The guy in the brown shirt? Gray, sorry.
I heard an individual who remarked about an audio tape regarding a press release, initial press release by vote rights in the Idaho situation before it was doctored up supposedly. And Rights made a comment that I'm trying to say it correctly, Weaver was a jerk.
I've got a tape where he called him a puke.
Or something like that. Weaver was a jerk. He's not green marine material. I don't have anybody that caliber in my unit or operation.
Yeah, I know. I want to urge people to get two books if you can find them. They're very difficult to find. They're both by John B. Marks. One of them he co-authored with somebody whose name I can't remember, but one of them is called CIA and Mind Control, and the other one's called The Cult of CIA. And once you understand that CIA in the 50s began doing research to mind control, what was being called mind control, and I hate that because it sounds frivolous. It sounds kind of like, I don't know, it just sounds stupid. It gets the same way as somebody that's a so-called conspiracy theorist. You can be labeled a conspiracy theorist and, you know, you have no credibility any longer. Well, same thing with mind control, but the fact is it's true. CIA wanted to create the perfect assassin, a person who could kill, who could be a runner, who could be a covert operative, and who could not be debriefed, who could not remember what they did if they were captured, and who wouldn't suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome after they did whatever they were ordered to do. So realize that the object of CIA's research in this area was initially to create a person who couldn't be debriefed. Now they've perfected this research. They're able to do it. Now one of the premier researchers was a guy named Louis Jolly and West, and they worked on such things as putting, initially, now this is the state of technology in the 60s, not the 90s, the 60s. They could put a little thing up your nose into your brain that would give you painful or pleasurable sensations. That was one of the early things this Louis Jolyon West worked on, and he was one of the advisors at Waco, by the way, as was Margaret Singer, another one of the CIA researchers. Now, they've been able to create what are called sleepers, people that have multiple personalities, don't realize they have them. They are people who can function perfectly normally. John Marks has interviewed a fellow that went through therapy, discovered his hidden personalities. Because he came back, he was a SEAL, and he came back from 2.5 years in, I think it was Nicaragua or Panama, one of those places. And it occurred to him he had to have done something besides gather seashells on the beach for 2.5 years. But that's all he could remember. Now, John Marks covers a lot of the case histories of these different people, but he also has read the declassified documents in MK-Ultra, which was one of the mind control experiments, and it was one of the projects Louis West was involved in. And it is my considered opinion that there could be a number of these kinds of people. They're called sleepers. And they have what's called a handler. Now, if you keep in mind that the object was to create the perfect assassin, and that they used special forces as their first groups to experiment on, I think you'll find that we have some perfect material there. In some people who are now doing things that you go, well, how come he'll say this over here and this over here, and he doesn't seem to remember what he says? Well, think about it. Either he's senile, or something's up. Either he's doing it on purpose, or maybe he's a sleeper. Consider those possibilities. I'm not going to not consider that as a possibility. When somebody asks, what makes these people tick? Maybe they don't know. Guy with the beard and blue shirt?
During the course of this word you spread, I obtained a dozen of your tapes a week ago. And what I would recommend everybody do that's concerned in here, obtain as many tapes as possible. Take them to your friends, talk to your friends, put them out to them, loan them to them, but take a deposit to cover the cost of your tape plus a couple bucks, because they are going to keep most of the tapes. This will allow you to replenish your tapes and spread the word.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, would you like me to explain that again?
I guess so.
Okay. What I did is I obtained a dozen of your tapes a week ago. I purchased 12 tapes a week ago.
Okay.
I have been taking them out to my friends and saying, you've got to see this. I explained briefly what is happening, and I asked them to give me a deposit to cover the cost of my tape, plus a couple dollars. Because you're going to have most of these people keep the tape. If they want to return it,
Well, Charlie's Boss has got them for $2 a piece. It doesn't get much cheaper than that. I can't buy them for that.
I understand that. What you do is you hand them out to these people for, say, $4. This covers your expenses. This allows you to replenish your tape supply and keep this word going out.
Well, that's good.
I'm getting very good reception on it.
You got
one more question here in front.
Okay, up front?
Is there any way to get a list of these 24 people who have been died mysteriously?
Yeah, the question was, is there a way to get a list of the 24 people who have died mysteriously? That article is a body count article, included in with several other things that I've written. There's a summary on Waco. There's a tape that's an interview that basically is pretty much what you've heard here tonight, the same kinds of information.
Pretty good.
I should give out our 800 number. Okay, our 800 number is 1-800-749-9939. My office number, which if you call this number, you're going to get voicemail. You are not going to get a human being. But there is a series of things you can punch through. Please listen to them because it's entertaining, number one. Number two, it does have information on it. The first number that you can punch will always give you information on whatever the newest thing is that we've just got done. Then we also have a place where you can sign up to be on the Ready Response Team, which is the communications network. If you don't have a computer, you can still be on it as a fax or a phone or a ham radio operator or anything else. Another is for militia information, and you'd be interested in forming a militia or being in contact with militia. Be aware that the militia is and always has been part of this country. When the country was formed, every man between the ages of 17 and 45 was a member of the militia. He was required to have his own gun and musket. That never changed. In 1913, the law was revised, and two categories of militia were created. The National Guard is one category, and anyone that is not in the National Guard or the Naval Militia is a member of what is called the unorganized militia. That's at 10 United States Code, Section 311. Every able-bodied male between the ages of 17 and 45 that is not in the National Guard is a member of the U.S. militia. Remember that. Now, since we have had the Discrimination Act, let's see, what was it? The Omnibus Civil Rights Act of 64, ladies, it applies to you too.
Can you give me the United States code?
10 U.S.C. 311.
You didn't give your phone number, right?
1-800-749-9939. Oh, the office number. The office number is area code 317-780-5200. That's got the punch buttons. Now, if you leave a message, it does get listened to. I do hear it. I do get it. I listen to them every day. I don't go home until I'm done. Sometimes it takes me 5 hours just to read through the mail and listen to the messages. Okay?
Did you see the article written by the editorial page editor of one of the Waco papers? They circulated it.
Oh yeah, Mark England, he called me ahead of time. Mark England, the question was, did I see the editorial by Mark England? Yeah, Mark England is the guy that wrote the tabloid type articles about the Branch Davidians in conjunction with the 6 or 7 people from Australia. You'll notice that all the people that have been bad-mouthing the Branch Davidians, it's always been the same ones over and over and over again. They rotate them. It's about half a dozen people. Most of them are from Australia. The Gents, the Toms, the Bros, and Robin Buns, who has a child by David Koresh. And these are people that were working together way before the assault on Mount Carmel to try to oust David Koresh as leader. Mark England took all of his information from these people. I would hazard a guess that he is working with them. There's a lot of advanced planning that went into this that hasn't been revealed to the general public in terms of setting up people at radio stations ahead of time. I just found an ATF agent working at Parkland Hospital the other day. And the way I discovered that was I was calling for some information. I told him who I was and what I'd done and why I was calling, and he said, "You mean you think we set the fire?" And I got this on tape. I was so taken aback, I said, "What do you mean we?" And he overstepped my we and he said ATF. I said, "You work for ATF?" He said, "No." But I said, "Why'd you include yourself in that?" But anyway, there was a lot of advanced planning. Mark England, I think, was part of the advanced planning. He's a reporter on the Waco Tribune-Herald. Waco Tribune-Herald actually got an award for their tabloid sleaze journalistic articles. And you can see the headlines in the Waco the Big Lie tape. He called me and wanted to interview me, and when I realized who he was, I said, "You're slime, and I don't talk to slime." And he said, "You're an attorney. You mean you don't want to talk to me? You're afraid to talk to me, aren't you?" I said, "No, that's right. I am an attorney. You're slime. I don't talk to slime. Goodbye." And he wrote a nasty article about me, which is to be expected, but considering the source, I was quite pleased.
How did you get an uncut version of Waco?
How did I get an uncut version of what?
The Waco tape.
Okay, I made the Waco tape, okay? I mean, the one you saw, we put it together. Okay, how did we get all that film footage, you mean? A lot of it came right off of TV. And the problem is that announcers would be saying one thing, like there's one scene that we've got where they're talking about they're rescuing somebody. They're not rescuing somebody at all. They're taking a body bag out into the yard and setting it on fire. But if you're not watching, and you haven't watched this film footage enough, you don't know what you're seeing. So all I did was I just collected film footage any place I could get it. I sent off to clipping services, that's companies that tape it off the news. I got as many people's news broadcasts as I could for the whole 51 days. I got, excuse me, I got satellite footage from a guy named Ken Fawcett in Texas. He taped it off the satellite feed. I got satellite footage from a guy named Ed Pack. I got satellite feed from 4 other people. These are people that have satellite, and when the networks are taping or filming, they've always got some cameras that are taping, but they're not showing it to you on TV. They just send it on to their station via satellite. Well, if you've got a satellite, you can intercept that. And a lot of people did that. They intercepted it, taped it, and have sent me the tapes. Then I got different people tape the whole day, for instance, of the fire of ABC, CBS, NBC, or CNN's coverage, and they've sent me their tapes. It's been kind of a collective effort of Americans all over the country that decided I'm the repository for Waco information, so they've been good enough to send it to me. And then we've watched it for hours, and we watch it with a lot of people, and everybody that watches it sees something we missed. There's something I just discovered this week that I hadn't found before all this time, and that is that if you look when the fire starts, and I don't think you can see it in Waco, the big light, because it's the wrong camera, but if you watch as the fire starts at that window, above the window, there's smoke coming out of 4 perfectly round holes. Those are mortar round holes. We found a shot of a tank shooting mortar rounds into that place, and since they're like this, 2 and 2, the tanks shoot 2 at a time. That has to be an expert tank driver who did that, to get that perfect alignment that way. There wasn't any FBI agent that learned it in a day. That's one of the complete proofs that yes, there really was military driving that tank. And then we also found footage showing people getting out of the tanks in military uniforms, and some of them don't look like United States military uniforms. No blue beanies, but they're uniforms like camouflage fatigues with a belt on the outside, which we don't have any uniforms like that. Lady back here.
Do you have any more information about the calls that were placed ahead of time to Parkland Hospital and the various other hospitals?
No.
I heard that on CNN as the coverage was going on. I heard that.
Okay, that came from the guy that we've since determined is probably a fed, the broadcaster, the radio broadcaster, who said a lady called into his show and said that she was a nurse at Parkland and that they call at 5:30 in the morning. But what has been admitted since then is that they did call Parkland before noon and ask them that. And they had called them the day ahead of time to ask them how many rooms generally they had available. But some of the more damning things, think about this. They're claiming the Branch Davidians set themselves on fire. Without any other evidence, just look at the pictures that you have. There's 4 sources of fire. One is in an upstairs window, one is downstairs, one is back here in the back of the place. You can tell from Waco the Big Lie, they knocked out all the stairwells at 10 to 9. The Branch Davidians would have had to agree to murder themselves by setting a fire at 10 to 9 that they were all going to set at 5 afternoon. Because nobody could get from the downstairs to the upstairs. And there was no communications between downstairs and upstairs. There was no way that these people could have decided suddenly, spontaneously, they couldn't take it anymore and they're going to set the place on fire. It's an absurd idea.
Can I just ask one other thing? Do you have any idea why Vince Foster was murdered?
Vince Foster was murdered because he was asked to reconstruct the Clintons' financial records from Arkansas to cover up the slush fund that they were using. They had a slush fund going. The American Spectator had a real good article on that about a week ago. You might want to get that article because it explains it in detail. And I think it's called the Clinton Slush Fund. Okay. Oh, wait, you already asked one.
Can you tell me about Rex 84?
Okay, Rex 84 is a plan, and the maps, in fact, Checkmate's got the pictures of the Rex 84 maps in it. If you get Jeff Baker's book, it's got detailed information about Rex 84. That'd be the quickest way. Rex 84 has got the information about the concentration camps that were built in the locations. I found that a lot of that information is kind of outdated and old, but it's a good start.
I was wondering if you could tell me, we were watching television the other night and they had some pictures from Russia, and they had 2 supposed Russian policemen that had the exact same uniform on as the ATF, only it didn't have ATF on it. It had the black hoods and the black masks and all in black.
Is that a question?
Yeah, well, I wanted to know, is this a uniform now that's part of this global thing and part of this global thing?
Question is this black uniform that we've all seen, the black balaclava, face mask, hood, the black top to bottom, and the jack boots, is that the global uniform? It appears to be, yes. Because if you look, she said she saw Soviet soldiers wearing the exact same outfit as Soviet police wearing it. If you look, right now, every federal agency, including the post office, including the park rangers, including the IRS, has their own SWAT team. And they all have these outfits. Sheriff's departments have these outfits. You know, it is it. The Ninja Turtle outfit with the black, you know, to cover the mask and the body, all in black. So I would suggest, you know, you might want to stock up on black outfits. I confuse and confuse.
Right.
If everybody's wearing black.
Like this guy.
Oh yeah, you look like a handy target. He's got on black jump boots, black pants, black shirt, no patch.
Gary Hunt from Central Florida.
Yeah, as far as I know, he's from Florida, yeah. He claims to be, but nothing else he's ever said's been true, so I don't know. I do know he hasn't worked in the last year, and he travels all over.
Think there's any chance that this tape is going to be offered part of evidence in this case?
That tape couldn't be offered in evidence. There's not any way, because the problem with that, with anything evidentiary, you've got to have chain of custody on it to be able to prove that it's authentic and where it came from. And obviously, we've edited this by putting all kinds of different scenes on one tape. But what could be used and what it could be useful for, and what it is being used for, in fact, is to locate tape segments and subpoena those directly from the network as evidence.
So there is a possibility.
Well, one of the problems you're going to see with this trial is that not everybody that's on trial as a Branch Davidian is a Branch Davidian. Some of them are government agents. And that is the problem they're having and why this trial is so rigged. And that's one of the reasons there's a team of attorneys we're discussing whether or not to ride in there and start busting this open or not. But the issue is who's really a Branch Davidian? And how rigged is this? You know, is it so rigged because there are government agents and they're just going to go through the motions and let them all go? Or are they going to go through the motions and give them all 40-year sentences and put the real ones in jail and let the government agents go? The only good legitimate attorney I know down there that's not part of the program is outnumbered. He's not going to be able to turn it around. And I'm not seeing any defense being offered. Did you see Dick DeGuerin was allowed to go in? He was a classmate of William Sessions. Dick DeGuerin, the attorney that's interviewed all the time, he was a classmate of the former director of the FBI. And when he came out, he didn't come out and say, did you know that all these kids were killed the first day? Now, as an attorney, I can tell you that if one of my clients was being trashed in the media the way the Branch Davidians were, and I had an opportunity to go in and come out, and I had media from around the world, and I had their ear, and I, in one sentence, could turn the thing around. And that sentence would be, they killed children in there. I would have screamed it to the rooftops. I don't know an attorney who wouldn't have. And I don't know an attorney who's got a good word to say about DeGuerin because he didn't. You could go in there in a half an hour and talk to those people and explain to them that with all these cameras rolling and with specially arranged cameras that we could designate, we could have named our conditions that they could come out of there. Dick DeGuerin goes in and negotiates a book deal. All the other attorneys are handpicked by the judge. So we don't know what's legitimate and what's not legitimate, but we do know that the things that should have been done on this case have not been done. The very basics of subpoenaing such things as the tapes this gentleman just mentioned. If I could get as much stuff as I got, and I funded this myself, by myself, with not much help initially, we've got a lot of help now. Think what they could have got with subpoenas. Think what they could have got with the press listening to their every word. And it hasn't been done. It stinks. Something is rotten in Denmark.
When this fire started, were there explosions?
No. There was one real big explosion, which was gas tanks in the back of the house. They did have diesel fuel tanks and propane tanks, and you can see those in a lot of the footage. And the type of explosion that was is consistent with a gas explosion because a bomb does not create a fireball, but a gas explosion creates a fireball like you saw there.
Were there any ammunition uncovered anywhere?
They're claiming that there there was ammunition everywhere, but there's no evidence of that. And we've got reams and reams, you'll see a lot of this, of them just walking around in it, you know. If they were worried about things exploding, they sure didn't look like it. I mean, they're going in there with no hats, no flak jackets, no nothing. They're just walking around. And I mean, 20 minutes after the fire's down. And it's still smoldering.
There's been people that have disputed the fact that the 3 agents were bodyguards.
Oh, yeah, I love it when people make that claim, and Bo Brights was one. That Bill Clinton's, those 3 men that were killed, that were Bill Clinton's bodyguards, we got the best proof there ever was. Bill Clinton said it himself in a speech, because he was president. All of his speeches are memorialized forever. You can get a copy from the White House. March 18th, 1993, address to the cash room, or to the Treasury Department, at the cash room. He said that all 3 of those men had been members of his presidential security, and he named them by name. You don't get any better than that. I mean, that's horse's mouth, said that himself. All right, the other end. Red shirt.
I have 2 questions. 1, are any of the ATF agents going to be on trial? And 2, have you yourself read the Treasury Department investigation of Vernon House?
Yes, we have the Treasury Department. What they're calling the independent investigation, I thought it was really interesting. This was supposed to have been an independent investigation. All 3 of the people that were picked for the independent investigation, one had been the journalist that covered the bombing and burning of MOVE in Philadelphia, which could be considered the police action exercise in preparation for Waco. The other guy had been both of the other 2 had been investigators on the MOVE committee in Philadelphia. So in other words, we had 3 guys that were experienced in covering up police fire bombings. The name of the report itself was not independent investigation into what happened at Waco. It was investigation of Vernon Howell. And so you've got it right at the beginning, no indication that this is going to be impartial. And then it's dedicated to the memory of the dead ATF agents. Okay. Time's up. Okay, I got one more question and I'm not
I got your 800 number, but I hear you talking about being able to send you donations monthly. Is there an address I can do that?
Oh, bless your heart. 3850. We're not tax deductible. We're also no longer a corporation. Ever since I found about what 501c3 really means in terms of your contracts and commitments to an illegal monetary fund and government, we've dissolved our 501c3 status, so we are not tax deductible. We are not a corporation. Anyway, it's American Justice Federation. We are a loose confederation of individuals. 3850 South Emerson, E-M-E-R-S-O-N, Avenue, Suite E, Indianapolis, which is I-N-D-I-A-N-A-P-O-L-I-S, Indiana, and that's abbreviated I-N. And for those of you who still use zip codes and don't know why you shouldn't, it's 46203. I don't know the last 4 on, so enough of that. Okay, we're divided. Pardon me?
Justice what?
Federation.
And your voicemail number again.
Charlie's going to cover why you shouldn't use zip codes. If not now, at one of the meetings that they have. The voicemail number is 317-780-5200. That's it. I can't do it anymore. 317-780-5200.
And basically, it's going to run, what, 2.5 hours, Mark?
2
You're
hours.
going to have 2 hours. We're going to sell it for $10, but there's a little proviso in there that I think will be very helpful for you. You can take that tape, make as many copies of it you want yourself, and you can send it all over the world. And when you do that, what you're doing, if you tell your friends, you are going to get a lot of good information in the hands of the right people. And then you can really make your effort really count. What we're doing here is you're getting grassroots information into the right hands. We thank you for coming. The next meeting we're having is April 15th. Mark Clark is going to be speaking. And the following one after that is on July the 2nd, and that's with Jeff Baker. Thank you for coming. Have a great evening.